could young Joseph Joestar beat Dio? I'll be going over the idea and we'll see what we can get off of this, because off the top of my head, he gets clapped in part 3, but let's see what we can do with part 1. So let's look at Joseph Joestar. Now, originally, I had written up some stuff about how much stronger and faster and all that part 1 Dio was, but if you were to really look at both part 1 and part 2, I'd say that the characters are fairly comparable for the most part. We've seen characters lift a lot in part 1, specifically Tarkus, but lifting doesn't equate to, your attack potency. So realistically, when you consider part 1 and part 2, I'd say that these characters are all fairly similar when it comes to the main people who are fighting. The exception to this generalization, or just this grouping of characters, I'd say would be the Pillarmen of all the characters, because they were really that strong. Now, Joseph Joestar is a genius. There's nothing for me to debate there. As he was modeled as a Sherlock Holmes type character, I have a video for that, it's going to make a lot of sense as to why he'd be this smart. He takes apart situations and people down to a science. His examination is some of the best in the verse, and his problem solving and planning makes you think that there's really no way that you're beating this guy. For example, young Joseph Joestar defeated AC/DC. To some, AC/DC was the Pillarman that was just there, even if that is the case to you. AC/DC was a master tactician of his time. Between 3000 and 50 BC, the Pillarmen were roaming and on the search for the Red Stone of Asia. And AC/DC and the Pillarmen had found themselves in China on the search for the Red Stone. And AC/DC in specific had familiarized himself with the art of war by Sun Tzu, and potentially more, considering that he was in a pretty good time to learn about battle, how to mess up your opponent, all that type of stuff. And Pillarmen were already extremely intelligent in comparison to humans. The last 4 that we saw were the smartest ones that I'd say, because, they whooped everyone else, and Joseph had defeated them all, including Kars in his ultimate form, who had an IQ of 400, unreasonable biological adaptability and regeneration, and was just all around one of the strongest characters to touch JoJo. But you may be thinking, well, if that's the case, Joseph should be able to defeat Dio with no difficulty at all. And on paper, it should be true, but I think the biggest thing that matters here is the environment where the battle is taking place and what Joseph has on his person. Now, Joseph beat Ultimate Kars, right? That's what happened. But if you give Joseph the tools that he typically has, the battle is a lot different. For example, the Red Stone of Asia is just not common to Joseph, which was the only real reason why he won there. So if you were to give Joseph the same fight without the stone, he'd die. There'd be no way that he'd fight Kars or even do anything near the same way. And that's the problem here, because against Dio, what is he about to do? Let's visualize this. But first, a word from our sponsor, Skillshare. Skillshare is an online learning community with thousands of inspiring classes for anyone who loves learning and wants to explore their creativity and learn new skills. Now, if you have a specific skill that you're trying to learn, Skillshare is a perfect place to start. What I had been doing recently is I've been getting invested into screenwriting, or the past couple of years, and I've been looking on how to format better and what can I do once I actually have my script finished. The class on how to sell your script by John Watts and the screenwriting masterclass by Brian Birmingham gave me a lot of perspective that I was looking for. And considering I found stuff from my other hobbies, I'm pretty sure that you'll be able to find what you're looking for there. And the first 1,000 people to use my link or code CalebIA will get a 1-month free trial of Skillshare, so tap in. We have a young Joseph Joestar from the end of Battle Tendency and a Dio with his body from the end of Phantom Blood. Of course, he's not supposed to have it, but in this scenario, in fairness, let's say that he does. And Hell will give Joseph back his arm, because we're gonna make this, I guess, completely fair. Now, at a distance, Dio can use his eye lasers, and Joseph has his clacker volley, If either were to lunge at each other, we know that Dio can counterattack a Hamon strike with his freezing ability. Now the question is, well, what can Joseph do? They're comparable in strength and speed if we're gonna go about that route, and they're both willing to play dirty compared to those that they have fought against. I guess except Cars, because that dude played for real dirty. I also think that neither character would fall for something that had defeated them before. So if Joseph finds a way to start a small fire to set his fists ablaze to punch Dio would most likely just not contest it or just find his way around it, you know? And honestly, I can imagine a JoJo situation where Dio lasers Joseph's clacker volley, but then Joseph does something with the remains of it, like it's been destroyed, but he uses it to use a diversion or something, hammer it up a bit, and then lock down a kill. But that's disregarding Dio's intellect for the sake of the plot at that point. So I'm honestly puzzled about this situation, because Joseph is a genius, that's true, but so is Dio. And in his time underwater, there hasn't been a modern vampire brain on par with Dio in terms of tactical execution and innovation with the vampireness. Straizo knew that he couldn't rival the mind of Dio, you know, and he tried, but failed. Along with that, a battle against Joseph is one where you must acknowledge the environment and the potential randomness that this character has, but if the territory isn't special and you're both on equal footing, the battle is then about who has what and can use it better. Joseph is sort of like Batman. He can most likely fare well against the enemy when he has his prep, you know? But then you want to imagine, like, okay, so what if you had a Batman that just didn't know about the existence of Superman? That'd be clapped, you know? When you have Joseph without prep, you have him versus Wamu when they had first met, or even Joseph against Ultimate Cars, because those are definitely both times where he should have died, but you know, just got away through other means. Now, it would be fun to throw in the whole Joseph having Hermit Purple at a younger age thing into the mix, but I wouldn't say that that'd be like necessarily fair. But if that was the scenario, you know, I'd say that Joseph wins. But when we have a similar scenario between the two, and we've essentially removed his get out of jail free cards by putting his opponent Dio on equal footing, he's most likely screwed, I'd say. I don't think he's got it, but I also don't think that the win is by a large margin. There's an argument to favor Joseph's intellect by highballing it a bit more, to just be like, you know, ignore what Dio has, he can just outsmart that alone. But the thing is here, I believe that Joseph is always going to need a bit more to contest certain characters, you know? Oil and fire against Wamu, a red stone against Cars. You know, what's next, man? Like, we're just gonna hear him say, you know, flame on, and then just blasts up and just punches right through Dio, you know? Like, it seems impractical. I would have to create a whole scenario in a specific area to where Joseph can somehow finagle a win rather than a regular old field and nothing happening. But you know, that's just me. You can feel free to leave your comments in on for this fight. I do think that Dio wins, but you know, again, there's an argument to be made that Joseph is really just that smart and he'd be able to win. And if that's what you believe, that's also fine. Hopefully I'll see you all in the next one. Until then, peace out and Godspeed.